Well, we're back here. We had our Husker Online show earlier today, and we wouldn't be doing our job if we didn't stick with the news. So Sean Callahan, Steve Sipple, Robin Washett, want some staff reaction. As we got done finishing the Husker Online show, all the news broke on the new staff hires by Matt Rhule. First and foremost, let's go through those hires before we begin the reaction. But this is official. John Butler will be the new defensive coordinator. Now, this was first reported by Pete Thamel. We've confirmed it with a program source that is a done deal. Pete Thamel also reported that Phil Snow, Matt Rhule's former defensive coordinator in Carolina and other stops,
and Baylor,
will be the associate head coach. Phil Simpson is official as the new OLB coach. But then the real wild card hire here is Terry Braden, the assistant defensive line coach for the Kansas City Chiefs. He's been there the last 7 years. He will replace Terrence Knighton. Now, Snow and Braden, not official yet, but man, they made quick work here of getting this staff filled, and you would think that most of these pieces will be in place now for the bowl game.
Well, yeah. I mean, John Butler was going to be, he was coordinating the defense for the bowl game. He had served as the passing game coordinator and cornerbacks coach this season. I thought Rhule, I don't like to say telegraph because it has sort of negative connotations in sports, but I don't think it's negative. I think this is a good hire. I thought Rhule sort of told us about this was the direction it was heading on the National Signing Day press conference when he said he didn't want to change the defense. I just listened to it. You know, I listened to it live, then went back and listened to it, and all I could think was this just looks like John Butler to me. Doesn't want to change the fronts, doesn't want to change the way they operate. If you go outside, you got to find somebody who wants to fit into all that. Mm-hmm. I just made sense. And Butler has been a defensive coordinator.
Yeah, and this is something that we've kind of considered since the day he was hired back in early July.
Yep.
When he first got on board. There's a lot of speculation that well is he here to be Tony White's successor when Tony White eventually moves on? At the point we thought he was going to move on to a head coaching job, but the fact that he was the interim DC for the bowl, like going into this coaching process, like it all kind of just seemed like he was the guy all along. And unless like some major big time hire came in and suddenly shook things up and changed the conversation, and that was going to be the plan. It seems like that name never came up, and Matt Rhule stuck with his guy.
Yeah, I really like Sip called it from the get-go on this. I just don't think Matt Rhule was interested in just retooling the whole defense, because they are kind of going to retool this offense with Dana Holgorsen. I mean, they're going to change it quite a bit, I think, in the offseason to fit more the language of what Holgorsen wants to speak and what they want to do. Do you want to do that with your offense going into year three, or defense in year three as well, when your defense at times has been very successful in what you're doing? So you bring in a guy and John Butler who's got a lot of experience, and then you complement him with Phil Snow, who is, been involved with the defense all year. I mean, they really, when you break all this down, and then Phil Simpson coming in the manner that he did. And that's the beauty of these unlimited staff hire rules. Nebraska only really lost 2 coaches, Terrence Knighton and Tony White. Well, they're going to add 3 to replace 2. Yeah. And that's the beauty of the new rules that are in place. You're able to get a lot more creative with what you do, because you can have unlimited on-field coaches.
So there you go. John Butler, who was a defensive coordinator for Penn State under Bill O'Brien. Mm-hmm. And so this is interesting. There's an interesting storyline to this. He reportedly left the Bills in 2023 after the season, because he didn't land the defensive coordinator job. And he said, I'm at my best when I lead. He wanted to lead a defense. He left the job because he was passed over, and then said, I'm prepared to sit out the season, or I would take a lateral move that might allow me to make a jump. He took a lateral move at Nebraska, roughly the same job that he had with the Bills, and won. He won his bet. He won his own bet. Mm-hmm. That's impressive to me. He bet on himself.
I think that goes back to why this probably should have been the expectation almost going into this defensive coordinator search, of the fact that he was here under that assumption that he was going to have an opportunity when all was said and done. Now, when it came and how it happened, who
Right.
knows?
You
But
never did know.
the fact that it came open when it did, like, we should all have been with you, Sip, and said that this is probably going to be the guy.
And what we will never know is that Matt Rule kicked the tires on any, I don't want to say dream names, but just people that you have to call. Like, hey, if I didn't call this guy or that guy, I wouldn't be doing my job. Like, I have to, there, or was this that guy all along? And John Butler, and Sip made a good point. He left Buffalo when he was passed over. If John Butler didn't get this position, who's to say he doesn't leave at that point?
Yeah.
Leave where?
Nebraska.
Oh yeah, you're right. Good point. Yeah, I mean, it all lined up pretty well for him at the end of the day, and Nebraska's. I mean, I want to make clear. Rule said he did not want to change the defense. It wasn't, I don't think I want to change the defense. It was, I don't want to change the defense. He did say he talked to outside candidates. We don't know who they are. He said that explicitly. There's not speculation there. He said, I've already talked to outside candidates. He said it on National Signing Day. But it was clear to me he was leaning towards Butler.
And think how vulnerable Nebraska's been just in these few days, not having a D-line coach, not having a D coordinator. I mean,
good point.
You're essentially a knight without armor. I mean, you're just getting attacked. I mean, you're just, people are going after because you don't have a D-line coach,
because
you don't have
portal visitors,
and you have questions about your D coordinator. So your current players like Keona Davis and other key guys are being pecked off one by one. So this at least gives some closure to the matter. Like, hey, this is our staff. We're moving forward.
Or is this, Sean? I didn't even think about this. See, college football's changed so much that I didn't even think about this. Did Rule have to move this fast in advance of all of these portal players coming? You couldn't really bring guys in and say, I can't really tell you who your defensive coordinator is going to be or who your defensive line coach is going to be.
And you wonder too, like, because there was speculation. So just one candidate was like Jim Leonard. He's coaching with the Broncos right now. Did Nebraska have the luxury to sit out and wait for Leonard to finish up his NFL season and then make that hire? Like, in today's landscape, are you even capable of doing that? And how costly would that have been if you did prolong it to wait on a candidate with those types of ties?
We're going to wait on a guy and lose 20 players. Wait on
yes, exactly.
So lots to hit into. And before we continue the discussion, thanks for joining us on this special segment of the Husker Online Show as we discuss Nebraska's new defensive staff candidates. We're brought to you on this segment by Homefield. There's no better place to get your apparel, your Christmas gifts than Homefield Apparel. They will get you all set up. And this is the custom, unique gear, not necessarily the stuff you're going to find at your favorite big box store. Go to homefieldapparel.com. They've got tons of great gift boxes and packages. They're going to get you all lined up with everything you want and need to get you geared up for football season, volleyball season, basketball season, whatever the sport is. And it's not just Huskers. They have other teams as well at the college level. And we're going to give you 15% off at homefieldapparel.com. Use the promo code Husker24. That's promo code Husker24 to receive 15% off at homefieldapparel.com. Thanks to Homefield for sponsoring the special segment of the Husker Online Show. Okay, I want to talk more now about the defensive line coach, Terry Braden, Robin, because this is a guy that, had been with the Kansas City Chiefs for the last 7 years. He's got high school coaching experience in the state of Florida, has a very, very unique background. And, Dawson Merritt's father works for the Chiefs. You just wonder, what the connection there is. There a connection there?
Yeah. With Rule, is there a connection, Rob?
It didn't seem so.
Is there a connection with Jamar Mosey in his Kansas City time?
Could be.
I mean, there's got to be something that pulled this together for Nebraska to pull off a coach from the Chiefs, Terry Braden, who's been there for a number of years, 7 years now with Andy Reid.
Yeah, so this would be his 8th season serving as an assistant or defensive line coach or an assistant coach within the franchise. And looking at kind of immediate reaction from like Chiefs media, I've seen him called multiple times a rising star within their organization. He's just 34 years old, and he's a guy that is impressed immediately. And his story about how he landed that Chiefs job is pretty fascinating during this like brief like recap of his path. So he was a grad assistant at Bethune-Cookman after the high school job that he had. And in 2017, he had an internship with the Pro Bowl, the NFL Pro Bowl that he got. And so he got to go to Orlando and just had a chance meeting with Emmett Thomas, the great Kansas City Chief cornerback, who at that time was the defensive backs coach for the Chiefs. Well, he got to know Emmett, and Emmett introduced him to some other Chiefs staff members. And a couple weeks later, he's sitting down with Andy Reid, having an interview. Boom, he's hired, and he's been with the Chiefs ever since. And you look at the names that he's coached or helped coach over the course of his time there. I mean, they're some of the best defensive linemen in all football. And so that pedigree and experience he got in Kansas City, I think, has really vaulted him up to where he might have been a outside the box hire to a lot of people, just because nobody maybe outside of the Chiefs really knew who he was. But within that organization, he is very highly thought of. And I think Nebraska got another one of those rising star type assistants that Matt Rule has kind of hung his hat on.
Good job, Rob.
Yeah.
Why make the move, Sean? That's the question I'd have for Brad.
I'd almost say too, well, money. I mean, I would imagine
full-time position coach.
So he's an assistant D-line coach for the Chiefs.
Okay.
He's not the D-line coach. He's the assistant.
I mean, he's probably going to double his salary.
Okay, that answers that.
If I'm just going to guess, like he's going to go from like 250 to 450 or 200 to 4. I mean, it's going to be a sizable pay increase for him, if not more than that, when you look at this moving forward. But honestly, when you size up his resume next to Terrence Knighton, I mean, you can argue that they've got a guy with more credentials than Terrence Knighton now.
More experience.
At
the NFL level. I don't know what Braden's playing career was. Knighton had a lengthy play.
And that's where Knighton had
he was a quarterback at Bethune-Cookman.
Okay, interesting. Interesting. So Knighton played for 8 years in the NFL. But this does look like a very good hire to me.
It's a good counter.
It does seem like.
I mean,
I love the NFL thing because it's credence. It's the kids pay attention to that. It meant something to players that Knighton played that long in the NFL. It does mean a lot. It'll mean a lot to guys that this guy knows how to get guys to the NFL. It means a ton.
Yeah, it will be now. How many of these pieces will be in place for the bowl game? You'd have to expect Phil Snow is going to be there. We know Phil Simpson's there. John Butler's already there, but when will Braden come? And NFL moves are always, you're at the mercy of what the NFL says. Like Donovan Raiola was able to leave the Bears immediately.
He was an assistant offensive line coach too.
And they let him out. Now with the Chiefs and another major Super Bowl run, how long will they keep him locked in? Will they let him leave immediately? Does he want to leave immediately? I mean,
Right.
if you're going to get another Super Bowl ring, would you want to leave immediately?
I don't know.
I mean, so
that'll be interesting
how they handle that, and when he would be up here. But that was reported by Pete Thamel, not yet official by Nebraska. We can tell you John Butler is a done deal. Phil Snow and Braden are definitely still being finalized, but obviously when Pete Thamel is reporting that, it's usually coming from the agent world, and that tells you that it's pretty far down the road.
Mm-hmm.
Snow's a critical hire too. If you look at Snow was Rule's defensive coordinator at both Temple and Baylor, and at Baylor he oversaw the number one defense in the Big 12. At Temple, the defense was also very successful under Phil Snow. They went to Carolina together. Obviously didn't go well. It didn't play really good.
The defense played well.
Did it play okay?
Yeah, despite being one of the worst offenses in the league.
Okay, so so obviously Rule trusts Phil Snow implicitly. I mean, and that is huge to me that Snow is part of this because he can help Butler. I mean, really help Butler. I mean, this is great. It's a really tactical, well thought of hire. In my opinion, hiring Snow and Butler together.
Yeah, and you think about just how critical this point is in Matt Rule's tenure at Nebraska. Like, why wouldn't he want his most trusted ally by his side? Like, not a virtual consultant, like a guy that's with him in Lincoln every single day, that he can pick his brain and bounce ideas off of and help work with his, kind of new defensive coordinator during a critical period of transition for this program and for Matt Rule.
Well, now they'll have 2 weeks of bowl practice before they go to New York. So they have a lot of time. And look, the beauty of now this time of year is these coaches don't have to worry about going on the road in the living rooms. Like if you make this hire a year ago, 2 years ago, you are like trying to get Phil Snow in living rooms.
Yeah, you don't have to worry about that.
Like you don't have to. That's the one nice rule change. It used to be like, all right, we got to get this guy hired as quickly as possible to get him in living rooms.
Yeah, and same with Butler. You'd have to send him out on the road, right?
Yeah, you get him on the road to talk
during bowl practices. Never made sense.
And you used to be able to visit your commits every week. So you'd go out like once a week, and I mean they have eliminated that part of recruiting. Like which makes sense. I mean, now in today's world, I don't know if you need to go in someone's home.
I think the key in this discussion is the timing. That we probably, at least, I can't speak for you guys, I overlooked that a little bit. We should have probably been more ready for this. Rule
with the portal
had
visitors.
To nail this down with this. We've remarked that there hasn't been a long parade of portal guys come through yet. You can't really bring defensive guys in until you have this named, right?
I believe tomorrow is when the first wave comes through.
That makes sense. Now
they haven't had anybody today or Monday.
That makes sense.
So starting Wednesday, and then they're going to practice Saturday, and that's by design. I mean, I think when you have these portal visitors here, you want to build the day around a football event, right?
Do you see what now it makes total sense. And I feel kind of dumb that we weren't more on guard. I do. Like, he had to get this done.
Yeah, this is not 1997 where you're like, we're going to have a long, extensive.
I still sort of exist in that world. But Rule he was asked when he was going to do this defensive coordinator, make the decision. He said it could be 2 days. It could be 30 days. So
well, the fact that he was content rolling with Butler as the interim through the bowl, like it at least maybe thought you had a little bit of a time window there. But now the next ripple effect is they have, assuming that their defensive coordinator and defensive line coach now in place, what does that mean with current players that have entered the portal?
Right.
Now they know who their coaches are. Do they reevaluate Nebraska a little bit more? And all this massive turnover we've seen, especially on the defensive line and linebacking core, do they reevaluate their decisions?
I mean, it's just hard. I think when you look at a lot of these guys, okay, like at linebacker, Bayer is gone.
Yep.
Thompson's gone.
Butler's gone.
So there's nobody there. Dwight Boodle appears to be gone. And look, I think that's okay. Like the DBs are, but look at the D line. Jamari Butler's gone. Carroll Jackson, I don't know if he's going to play here. Princewell appears to be gone. James Williams appears to be gone. Kai Wallen was probably not going to play. Brody Tagaloa was probably not going to play. Keona Davis, though, is the one. I think if you are trying to get any one of these portal guys back that's realistic, that's the guy. But what's Keona Davis's loyalty to Terrence Knight and Tony White, who led his recruiting? Right. That's probably the topic point here, because can Braden get involved with him? Can he get Chris Jones on FaceTime from the Chiefs locker room?
Never know.
And say, you'd be a fool not to come play for this guy at Nebraska.
Rule did remark that a lot of players came in to talk to him on Butler's behalf. Not told by Butler to go talk to Rule. Rule presented it like, hey, the players he was popular with. Now, he coached DBs, though. So, I don't know. I mean, it's not like a bunch of DBs are in the portal. There's one, Boodle. That's it, right? As far as I know. Is that right, John?
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. So, what's his connection to the D linemen? The D linemen are on our screen right now. I don't know what his connection would be. That's one thing you wonder about. The other thing you wonder about a little bit with Butler, he doesn't have a lot of coordinator experience at the college level. He did go into a really difficult situation at Penn State after the child sexual abuse scandal. 2013, and they had like 40 scholarships reduced.
They were good, though.
The defense ended up being all right. It did. It did.
You know what is also interesting here is that, he's got some limited experience as far as being a college defensive coordinator. You have Phil Snow here, and you have a defensive-minded head coach in Matt Rule, both of which will have input. And guess what? Both Butler and Snow have extensive knowledge of the roster that they're inheriting.
Exactly.
This isn't some guy coming in from the Steelers or something like that is trying to learn people's names. Like, they've worked with these guys and evaluated these guys for a full calendar year now. Well, full season. How about that? Full season. And they're going to have a much further ahead starting point in taking this thing over and forming it the way they want it to look.
Where will Phil Snow coach? You think in the secondary help out back there? Because you've got 2 linebackers coaches now, Rob Dvorak and then Phil Simpson. And then you have now your D-line coach in Braden. So I think it makes sense with Tony Butler as the DC and Phil Snow
John Butler.
But you don't, I don't know. Tony White didn't work with the position group. So will John Butler move into that walk around role?
You mean Phil Snow or
John Butler as the DC? Will he move into a walk around role as the DC?
I would assume so.
And would Snow help? But
I would. My guess would be Snow might be more walk around, oversee the whole thing,
and Butler would still run the DB room.
Right. I don't know if you would
hire a full-time.
I don't know if you'd assign the associate head coach
a position,
Phil Snow to a position. It doesn't. What? And if you did, why wouldn't you just say that why don't you just say it right off?
Well, do you know what associate head coach title tells me too? Like Phil Snow's getting paid.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's not like a
100
analyst gig. I mean, he's getting paid.
Probably how you had to get him. Maybe. I don't know. It's a great hire though. You kept him. I mean, it's all you got to do if you don't understand this is look back at Temple and Baylor's defenses. Just look at them. They were good.
Yeah.
And as you guys pointed
Carolina
out,
defense was good too. I know their team sucked, but they had a lot of really good young defensive players that were playing pretty good ball on a bad team.
Okay. So now there you go. And the familiarity part is huge. So there you go.
All right, guys. Well, this is fun. We were able to get a quick reaction in. We got great content on HuskerOnline.com. Pull up the website, HuskerOnline.com. We got our initial story up on these hires. Robin's got his takes up. We got a regular Husker Online show up as well on our YouTube channel, podcast channels. Tons of great bowl coverage today. We had the pre-Pinstripe Bowl press conference, volleyball. Hey, and by the way, Wednesday, the schedule comes out tomorrow.
Good God.
So
December.
It is December, but it is hot. It is heavy. Lots going on. No better time to get on HuskerOnline.com. Check it out. Look at that ad there. I don't even comment on what that ad is on the far right there.
Maturity issues, Sean. Sean, maturity issues.
All right. Well, for Steve Sipple, Robin Washut, I'm Sean Callahan. Thanks for joining us on this special edition of Husker Online.